What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel and welcome to my Week 3 Takeaways video. If you're new to my channel, I do one of these every single week, and I go through the 5 biggest things that I learned from the past week of college football action. Maybe not something I learned or something I want to take note of. And if you have any other takeaway that's not in this video, please leave it down in the comment section below. Before we dive on into this week, just want to thank you guys for all your love and support for me and for this channel as well. Please continue to help support this channel by continuing to watch my videos, and thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this one. But you can do a lot more than that, guys. If you're as big of a college football nerd as I am, you got to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss any single one of my uploads. But you can also help support the channel in many more ways by literally interacting with it in any way you can. You can like, you can comment, you can share, you can do anything to help support this channel. It would mean a lot to me. And if you want to support me outside of YouTube, go give me a follow on Twitter or X, whatever you fancy calling it, at TailgateNate29. I post a lot about articles I write and other things that I do in sort of the sports media field work and my journey to be a sports media professional. So if you want to go support me that way, I'd really appreciate it. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's dive on into the 3 biggest things that I learned this week. And honestly, not a whole lot of chaos. There were some very interesting, very close games that will probably end up being talked about in this video or my top 25 video that's going to be coming out later today. But honestly, there wasn't really many shocking upsets or any big games that kind of make you stood back and go, whoa, this changes everything, right? Well, let's go ahead and talk about a couple of the teams down in Florida. I first want to talk about the Florida Gators. Guys, I am never one to A, question play calling, which obviously all of us do from time to time, or B, call for a head coach to be fired. But is it time to move on from Billy Napier at Florida? I think it probably is. I mean, look, there was a stat floating around here this week. It's actually been floating around for the past couple of years, but ever since Florida made the SEC championship game and were on the cusp of the college football playoff back in 2020, I think they've gone like 18-25, 18-26, have gone through another head coach in Dan Mullen, and now with Billy Napier, it's looking and trending the way of Billy Napier might very well be getting fired. This was a game against Texas A&M that, look, first of all, both of these teams probably had to win, right? If you're Texas A&M, you needed to get on that bounce back train. And if you're Florida, I mean, winning that one there at home just to keep sort of the hopes of this season alive and a lot of people locked in with your program, it was very, very important. And they didn't do that. Florida, honestly, just did not play well. You go ahead and take a look at the numbers here, and pulling them up right now, only 301 yards of total offense. They were 2 for 9 on third down. They only had 52 rushing yards, averaging 2.1 yards per carry. They turned the football over 3 times, not free times. Well, I mean, yes, free in terms of turnovers, but 3 turnovers there in that game. They were out possessioned, or I guess Texas A&M really controlled the clock in that game. They held the ball for almost 38 minutes. Florida barely had it for 22, and the defense didn't even play well either. They gave up 310 rushing yards, 488 total yards. Yeah, the third down defense, okay, pretty solid for the most part, but they couldn't take advantage of Texas A&M having 13 penalties against them, and this has sort of been the thing with Billy Napier, right, as everyone's been, oh, Florida is going to be so close. And I mean, do we give Billy a little bit of a break because the schedule is hard? A lot of people out there are going to tell you no, and I, for the most part, am in agreement with that. I think Billy Napier's time as the head coach of the Florida Gators here, guys, is starting to come to an end. And I think that's especially going to be true if they lose to a Mississippi State team this week that just got blown out by Toledo at home. And yes, I know Toledo, one of the better MAC programs that we have out there, and possibly, if everything goes right, could make a running to get into the college football playoff. But, I mean, when you get blown out by Toledo like that at home, if Florida can't go on the road, bounce back, and win that one, they got quarterback issues, they got culture issues there at Florida. Not as much so as they did before, but still, I mean, it just doesn't seem like this is a football team that's going to win you a whole ton of games. Something has to change with Billy Napier in Florida very, very quickly, or we could see Florida hiring a new head coach around the wintertime here upcoming later on this season. We'll see what happens with Billy Napier in Florida. Things are not trending in a good direction right now. And speaking of not trending in a good direction, Guys, what is happening with Mike Norvell's Florida State Seminoles? Mike Norvell just lost to his former team in the Memphis Tigers this past week, and Florida State has now fallen to 0-3. It's time to have a very, very lengthy conversation. And first of all, I am going to deny the Mike Norvell hot seat things, right? Unless Florida State goes 2-10 this year, which, I mean, all jokes aside at this point, if they don't get things figured out here, I mean, you still got Miami, Notre Dame, Louisville, and some of these other really good teams in the ACC on their schedule. That's scary for a team in Florida State that just hasn't really played well at any point throughout this season. I mean, they have let teams control the clock against them, and just this past game against Memphis, you could not get anything going offensively. Only 238 yards of total offense, 37 rushing yards on 24 carries. Guys, that's under a yard and a half per carry. You were 2 for 12 on third down. You turned the football over 3 times. You were outpossessed by almost 13 minutes. This is a team coming into this season that had so much expectation after going 13-0, winning the ACC. Yes, they missed out on the college football playoff, and I know that's going to say, oh, that absolutely killed this program. Guys, I don't think it did. I just think there are a lot of problems with this Florida State team right now. DJU has just not played well. They are not physically tough on the offensive or defensive fronts. They are getting bullied at the line of scrimmage, which is why they can't run the ball, which is why DJU has no time to throw, which is why DJU is overthrowing all these wide receivers. And look, yes, I'm putting a lot of blame on the offensive line there, but DJU also has to play better. Is it a Mike Norvell thing? I don't know if I'm ready to go that far quite yet, but when you lose 3 straight games, part of that blame has to go on the coaching staff, right? And I'm not going to sit here again, much like I hopefully didn't do with Billy Napier, that I was just simply making an observation. Mike Norvell has got to get things turned around quickly because, again, I don't think he's going to be let go at the end of this season unless things absolutely become a dumpster fire, which you could argue they already are with this Florida State team. Probably something that a lot of you guys took away already, but I believed in Florida State, man. I thought this was going to be a little bit of a bounce-back performance for them against this Memphis Tigers team. Right now, it looks like Florida State's only got 1 win on the schedule, and that is against a team in Charleston Southern. That, of course, as we all know, is an FCS program. I mean, Florida and Florida State got to play each other at the end of the season. I know all the jokes and everything are going around about that matchup right now, but I mean, seriously, where are those two programs going to be at the end of this season, right? Miami is far and away now the best team in the ACC. NC State has had a lot of struggles. Clemson doesn't look super fantastic, but that was my big takeaway from last week or a couple of weeks ago. But if you didn't think that Florida State was in real trouble now, I mean, they are in some serious, serious trouble. This is a team that has to get things figured out very, very quickly. They still have a lot of very good talent. It has to play better. It has to be coached better. And this team has to have confidence in themselves. That is a big, big thing. And I know it's really hard to do that right now, but having confidence that you can go out and win football games, I think it's going to change a lot of things for this Florida State program. But what a win it was for this Memphis Tigers team, and a team that if you didn't believe before, you have to believe now. They are one of the favorites to go on and represent the Group of 5 in the college football playoff, and there are so many of those teams within the Group of 5 this season. But we got to move on to my next big takeaway. But guys, I'm here to tell you, if you haven't figured it out already, both of the Florida schools are in trouble. Maybe I'll make a little bit of an in-depth video on Florida State and everything I think is going on with that. If you guys would like that, let me know down in the comment section below. But again, we got to move on here. Let's switch things up to a more positive note, right? I think there are some conference sleepers, especially within the SEC and Big Ten, that are emerging right now. In Indiana, I want to start with them on the side of the Big Ten. A lot of people coming into the year thought, hey, maybe Indiana could be a pretty dangerous team if everything sort of comes together and works out within their favor. Well, right now, man, welcome to the Big Ten. Welcome to the Big Ten UCLA, because you just got thrashed by the Indiana Hoosiers. 430 yards of total offense, 9 of 12 on third down. I mean, you take a look at what Rourke the Ohio transfer at quarterback has done for them so far. He's been outstanding. 307 yards, 4 touchdowns. The rush game had 2 rushing touchdowns, average 4.2 yards per carry. A lot of these transfers coming in have just performed exquisitely. And if you have Indiana on the football schedule, if you are a Big Ten team, you need to watch out, because much like when you sort of have the conversation about Big Ten sleepers, I think a lot of people like to bring up the Nebraska Cornhuskers, right? A team that just hasn't been very good over the past couple of seasons and now is starting to emerge, play some really good football. They're ranked, and a lot of people are saying Nebraska's a Big Ten sleeper. You got to watch out. Guys, I don't think Nebraska is a Big Ten sleeper. I think Nebraska is just good, period. Indiana, that right there is a Big Ten sleeper. Another one that you can mention, Indiana is the biggest one to me, but another one that you can mention are the Illinois Fighting Illini, a team that had a lot of concerns, especially on the defensive end coming into this year. Who knew how Luke Altmaier was going to play this season? And sure, while Luke Altmaier has not been exquisitely super over-the-top fantastic, he, for the most part, guys, has been really, really good. And he outdueled Jalen Daniels in that Kansas upset that Illinois had just last week. Not this past week, the win against Central Michigan, but the week before that, where they were able to beat Kansas. Altmaier in their previous game, 242 yards. And if you take a look at the statistics as a whole for this Illinois team, I mean, Altmaier has not thrown an interception yet, something that he had to get cleaned up from last season. Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin are playing really, really good football here for this team in the wide receiver room. The rush game is running really, really well, and the defense is really stepping up for the Fighting Illini. Now, if you want to move on to the side of the SEC, South Carolina, man, look, if they have not been on your national radar, they better be now. They almost just took down an LSU team, to which they honestly probably should have ended up winning that game. There are a lot of missed opportunities, and penalties were absolutely flying everywhere. Penalties and turnovers, I think, are ultimately what killed South Carolina there in that game. But they showed this year that they can hang around, and the expectations for South Carolina this year were sort of all over the place. They had a lot of really good returning talent, and Lenora Sellers is a quarterback with a ton of potential. Some people, including myself, thought that it just wasn't going to go South Carolina's way this season. I immediately right now am going to be proven wrong, and I will sit up here and admit that any day of the week. I was wrong about South Carolina, guys. This is going to be one of the teams in the SEC that you have to watch out for. And then even Kentucky, I know they got sort of embarrassed at home by South Carolina a couple weeks ago, but them being able to hang with Georgia, I think was really, really impressive for that program. And I think that Kentucky is also a team that maybe down the line can sort of spoil teams in the can sort of spoil their season for some teams there in the SEC. But I do want to talk about that game here. And yes, look, for what a performance it was for Kentucky to be able to be this close to defeating the #1 team in the country and having a lead on Georgia going into the fourth quarter. Well, guys, Georgia was able to pull that thing out. And I'm here to tell you right now, to set the record straight, Georgia has struggled in their SEC opener, their SEC road opener, especially over the past couple of seasons. You remember a couple years ago, they go to the Missouri, play really well, but almost lose that game. You go on the road there to Auburn, night game, you almost lose that game last season. This year, it just happened to be the Kentucky Wildcats, and a ton of people are going to be dropping Georgia in their polls, and a ton of people are going to be looking at Georgia and saying, oh, I have some concerns now. Maybe this isn't the Georgia team that we've seen over the past couple of seasons. Guys, that's exactly what people, maybe even including myself, probably including myself, knowing me, have said over the past couple of seasons. When Georgia goes on the road, they struggle. They struggle in their SEC opener. They struggle against a non-conference team that everyone feels they should absolutely blow out. Guys, please don't doubt Georgia. You're making a mistake, and I am positive that I have made that mistake before. I am not making it again this season. Guys, Georgia is going to be just fine. Did they have their best performance? No, absolutely not. But I've seen this pattern, and you as well have seen this pattern with Georgia just too many times to sit there and think, well, Georgia is not the Georgia that they have been over the past couple of seasons. Texas just jumped them in the AP poll, and that's only going to fuel Georgia because now Kirby Smart, and he doesn't care if Georgia is #1 or not even in the polls. But now that they're not #1, he can look at his guys and say, they're doubting you. Look at what happened. You go on the road in the toughest conference in college football, come out with a close win, and now people are doubting you. That does not sit well with Kirby Smart, guys. You are only adding fuel to the fire here. Don't doubt Georgia. They're still one of the best teams in the entire country, if not the best team. And going on the road in the SEC is no easy task. Kentucky is a really good team that has some good players, as Kirby Smart would tell you, echoing my sentiment there. Again, I just said I think Kentucky, if they play well enough, they almost did it to Georgia, can spoil someone's season down the line. Georgia's got a bye week, then they got to prepare for a huge game against the Alabama Crimson Tide. And I want to talk about Alabama a little bit in this video because a lot of people were doubting Alabama before this season. Not me. Did I think they were going to go 11-1, a run to the SEC championship game? I mean, no, just no. But that is looking ever increasingly a possibility now, because Alabama, I mean, just go back and watch literally anything against that game, in that game against Wisconsin. Because, guys, even without Nick Saban, Alabama is still the Alabama we all know and love. And that explosiveness that was missing at times on offense last season, now that Kalen DeBoer is there, guys, it is showing up in a huge way. Jalen Milroe and company, I mean, let's just take you back to before the end of the half, right? Wisconsin failed to score. They needed some points there before the half to sort of draw close with Bama, and Bama says, thank you very much, 37 seconds. How about we only take, 16, 19, something like that. Jalen Milroe and company, 2 plays down the field, they go down and score, and the explosive Bama offense is back. And the Bama defense looks really, really good, guys. Alabama's going to be one of the best teams in the country this season. They played like it. They proved it. Alabama is a team to reckon with, guys, and they got some really interesting games coming up. They get to host Georgia, which is going to be an absolutely fantastic game, a game to which whichever team wins that one might very well end up the #1 team in the country after that week. Again, not this week. Both teams have a bye. You end up going into that game next week. But, I mean, let's just look at some of the stats from this Bama game here. Jalen Milroe's passing stats aren't going to blow you out of the water, but still had an almost 90 QBR, 196 yards, 3 touchdowns for him. Jalen Milroe on the ground, 2 rushing touchdowns, 14 carries, 75 yards. How about the true freshman Ryan Williams, who's been simply sensational for them? Jeremy Bernard has also been really, really good. You take a look at this Alabama defense that had 2 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, and 7, count them up, 7 passes defended against this Oklahoma team. And by the way, I do just want to say we hope Tyler Van Dyke is okay. Really scary injury. He probably is going to be out for a long time, but we wish Tyler Van Dyke a speedy recovery as Wisconsin shifts over to Braden Locke. But you take a look at the stats here. Only allowed Wisconsin 290 yards of total offense. Only allowed them to go 3 of 14 on third down. Bama's offense was moving the ball really, really efficiently. The defense was forcing pressure. They were knocking passes away. Again, you go back, there's 7 passes defended in a game, guys. It's absolutely ridiculous. Bama is still Bama, and Bama is going to be here to stay. They're going to be one of the best teams in the SEC. Whether you like it or not, guys, Alabama is still one of the best teams in the entire country, and I think they proved that with their blowout against Wisconsin this past week. If you have any other takeaways from this week, let me know down in the comment section below. Again, I really appreciate you guys watching this video, and look out for my top 25 video coming out later today. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.